The night was dark, the air crisp, and the eerie silence of the forest was only broken by the occasional rustling of leaves. The moon, large and crimson, hung ominously in the sky. It was a rare blood moon, and a group of friends had decided to make this night memorable with a camping trip. Emily was the first to suggest the idea. "A blood moon camping trip will be epic," as she had said, her eyes sparkling with excitement. She was the adventurous one, always looking for the next thrill. Her boyfriend, Jake, had readily agreed. "Count me in," he had said with a grin, eager to impress Emily with his bravado. Joining them were Ben and Sarah, a couple known for their love of the outdoors, and Lucy, Emily's best friend since childhood. Lucy was hesitant at first but eventually agreed, not wanting to miss out on the fun. They planned the trip meticulously, choosing a secluded spot deep in the forest where they could enjoy the night away from the city lights. The day of the trip arrived, and the friends gathered at Emily's house, packing their gear into Ben's old van. The sun was setting as they drove out of town, the sky gradually darkening, the anticipation palpable. The journey was filled with laughter and music, but as they ventured deeper into the forest, the mood shifted. The trees grew denser, and the path narrower. "We're almost there," Ben announced, his eyes focused on the winding dirt road ahead. The van's headlights cut through the darkness, illuminating the eerie shadows of the forest. Finally, they arrived at the campsite, a small clearing surrounded by towering trees. The friends quickly set up their tents and gathered around a makeshift fire pit. The glow of the fire provided a comforting contrast to the surrounding darkness. As the night progressed, the blood moon rose higher in the sky, casting an eerie red glow over the forest. The friends sat around the fire, telling stories and roasting marshmallows. The air was filled with laughter and the crackling of the firewood. Suddenly, Lucy felt a chill run down her spine. She glanced around, her eyes scanning the dark forest. "Do you guys feel that?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Feel what?" Jake replied, looking at her quizzically. "I don't know. It's like we're being watched," Lucy said, hugging herself as if to ward off the cold. Emily laughed, trying to lighten the mood. Come on, Lucy, don't be such a scaredy cat. It's just the forest. There are probably animals around." Ben nodded in agreement. "Yeah, it's normal to feel a bit uneasy in a place like this. Just relax and enjoy the night." But Lucy couldn't shake off the feeling. She kept glancing over her shoulder, her unease growing with each passing minute. The others continued their banter, oblivious to her discomfort. The fire crackled, sending sparks into the air, and the blood moon seemed to glow even brighter. Hours passed, and the friends began to feel the effects of their long day. One by one, they retreated to their tents, the excitement of the night giving way to exhaustion. Lucy lay in her sleeping bag, her mind racing. She listened to the sounds of the forest, every rustle and snap making her heart race. Suddenly, she heard a low guttural growl. She sat up, her eyes wide with fear. "Did anyone else hear that?" she whispered, but there was no response. The others were already fast asleep. The growl came again, closer this time. Lucy's heart pounded in her chest as she slowly unzipped her tent and peeked outside. The forest was still and silent, the fire reduced to glowing embers. She saw nothing unusual, but the feeling of being watched was stronger than ever. The next morning, Lucy woke up early, the events of the night still fresh in her mind. She decided to go for a walk to clear her head. As she wandered through the forest, she stumbled upon something that made her blood run cold. In the dirt, partially hidden by leaves, was a large clawed footprint. She hurried back to the campsite, her mind racing. Guys, you need to see this," as she said, waking the others. They followed her to the spot, their expressions turning from curiosity to fear as they saw the footprint. What kind of animal could make a print like that?" Jake asked, his voice shaky. Ben crouched down, examining the print closely. "I've never seen anything like this. It's huge." Emily tried to stay calm. Maybe it's just a bear or something." Let's not jump to conclusions. But Lucy knew better. And no, this is different. I heard something last night. Something not natural. The friends spent the day trying to shake off the fear, but the discovery of the footprint lingered in their minds. As night fell once again, the atmosphere grew tense. The blood moon cast an even more ominous glow, and the forest seemed to close in around them. They huddled around the fire, the shadows dancing on their faces. The usual chatter was replaced with nervous silence. Lucy kept her eyes on the darkness beyond the firelight, her senses on high alert. Suddenly, a blood-curdling scream pierced the night. The friends jumped to their feet, their hearts pounding. What was that? Sarah whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know, Ben replied, his eyes wide with fear. But we need to stay together. They grabbed their flashlights and cautiously moved towards the source of the scream. The forest was eerily silent, the only sound their footsteps crunching on the leaves. As they approached a dense thicket, they saw something that made their blood run cold. In the clearing, they found a deer, or what was left of it. The animal had been torn apart, its lifeless eyes staring blankly at them. The ground was soaked with blood, and deep claw marks were etched into the dirt. Emily covered her mouth, trying to stifle a scream. What could have done this? She whispered, her voice barely audible. Jake shook his head, his face pale. I don't know, but we need to get out of here. Now. But as they turned to leave, they heard another growl, this time louder and closer. The friends froze, their flashlights trembling in their hands. Out of the darkness, a pair of glowing red eyes emerged, followed by a hulking, shadowy figure. Panic set in as the friends ran back to their campsite, their hearts racing. The creature pursued them, its growls echoing through the forest. They reached the clearing and grabbed whatever they could carry, throwing their gear into the van. Go, go, go. Ben shouted, starting the engine. The van roared to life, and they sped down the dirt road, the creature still in pursuit. The blood moon cast an eerie glow on the scene, the forest blurring past them. As they drove, they saw the creature in the rearview mirror, its eyes glowing menacingly. It was unlike anything they had ever seen, a nightmarish beast with razor-sharp claws and matted fur. The friends huddled together, their fear palpable. They finally reached the edge of the forest, the safety of the town in sight. The creature stopped its pursuit, retreating back into the darkness. The friends breathed a sigh of relief, but the terror of the night was far from over. Back in town, they went to the local authorities, but their story was met with skepticism. The sheriff, an old man with a weathered face, listened patiently but shook his head. There are no creatures like that in these woods, he said. You're probably just spooked by the blood moon. But the friends knew what they had seen. Determined to find answers, they began researching local legends and discovered the horrifying truth. The forest was said to be cursed, haunted by a monstrous creature that emerged during the blood moon. Those who ventured too deep into the woods never returned. Driven by a need for closure, the friends decided to face the creature once and for all. They gathered supplies and weapons, preparing for the ultimate confrontation. Despite their fear, they knew they had to put an end to the nightmare. Returning to the forest, they followed the path back to the campsite. The blood moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow. The forest was silent, the atmosphere thick with tension. As they approached the clearing, the creature emerged from the shadows, its red eyes glowing menacingly. The friends stood their ground, their weapons ready. The creature let out a deafening roar and charged at them. The battle was fierce, the friends fighting with everything they had. The creature was relentless, its claws slashing through the air. But the friends fought back with equal ferocity, their fear replaced by determination. Emily swung a makeshift club, striking the creature's head. Jake fired his shotgun, the blast echoing through the forest. Ben and Sarah attacked from the sides, their movements coordinated. Lucy, armed with a flare gun, aimed for the creature's eyes. The creature howled in pain as the flare hit its target, its eyes burning with a bright red light. It stumbled, its movements becoming erratic. The friends seized the opportunity, launching a coordinated attack. Emily struck the creature's head with her makeshift club, Jake fired his shotgun, and Ben and Sarah attacked from the sides with their knives. Lucy, seeing the creature disoriented, aimed another flare and fired, hitting it squarely in the chest. The creature roared, its body convulsing as the flare burned through its flesh. It lashed out wildly, but the friends managed to dodge its attacks, their adrenaline fueling their movements. Slowly, the creature's strength began to wane. With a final desperate lunge, it collapsed to the ground, its eyes dimming as the life drained from its body. The friends stood in stunned silence, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. The forest was eerily silent once again, the oppressive weight of the blood moon lifting. They had defeated the creature, but the night's horrors had left an indelible mark on their souls. We did it," Emily whispered, her voice trembling with a mix of relief and exhaustion. Jake nodded, his hands shaking as he lowered his shotgun. "Yeah, we did. But let's get out of here. I never want to see this place again." They gathered their belongings and made their way back to the van, their bodies aching and minds reeling from the ordeal. As they drove back to town, the first light of dawn began to break, casting a warm glow over the landscape. The nightmare was over, but the memory of the blood moon would haunt them forever. Back in town, the friends were met with a mixture of relief and disbelief. They went to the sheriff, who listened to their story with a furrowed brow. "You're telling me you fought off a creature from a legend?" he asked, skepticism clear in his voice. Ben nodded, showing the sheriff the cuts and bruises that covered their bodies. We did. And we have the scars to prove it." The sheriff sighed, rubbing his temples. "I don't know what to make of this. But I'll have a team go out and investigate. In the meantime, you kids should get some rest." The friends went their separate ways, each grappling with the trauma in their own way. Lucy couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, even in the safety of her own home. Emily and Jake found comfort in each other, their bond strengthened by the ordeal. Ben and Sarah immersed themselves in research, determined to understand the creature they had faced. A few days later, the sheriff called the friends back to his office. "We found something," he said, sliding a folder across his desk. Inside were photographs of the creature's lair, a dark cavernous space filled with bones and remnants of its victims. This is real," the sheriff admitted, his face pale. "I don't know what that thing was, but it's gone now. You kids did this town a service." But the friends didn't feel like heroes. The victory was hollow, the price of their survival etched into their minds. They decided to leave town, each seeking a fresh start away from the memories that haunted them. Months passed, and the friends slowly began to heal. Emily and Jake moved to a small coastal town, finding solace in the sound of the ocean. Ben and Sarah traveled the world, documenting their adventures and researching other legends. Lucy returned to her childhood home, finding comfort in familiar surroundings. The memory of the blood moon never faded, but it became a part of their story, a chapter in their lives that they had survived. They remained close, their bond unbreakable. The forest had taken something from them, but it had also given them a strength they never knew they possessed. Years later, on the anniversary of that fateful night, the friends gathered once more. They had come a long way from the terrified group huddled around a campfire. The scars had faded, but the memories remained. We should write a book," Emily suggested, her eyes twinkling with the same spark that had led them to the forest in the first place. "Share our story with the world." Jake laughed. Who would believe it? Ben and Sarah exchanged a glance. Maybe more people than you think," as Sarah said. Legends exist for a reason. And sometimes they need to be told." Lucy nodded, a sense of closure washing over her. We survived the blood moon. We faced our fears and came out stronger. That's a story worth telling." And so they began to write, their words capturing the terror and triumph of their journey. The blood moon camping trip became a legend in its own right, a tale of horror and heroism that would be told for generations to come.